Today, I'm going to show you 4 constructions that relate to our parallel and perpendicular lines that we're studying this unit. So the first construction we're going to do is how to create a bisector of a segment. And you'll see in a moment why this is related to parallel and perpendicular lines. So first thing is I'm going to start with a segment. So using my segment tool, I'm just going to draw a nice straight segment. And again, even though the endpoints are not drawn on this segment, again, this construction tool that we can use online, when we use our compass, it will snap to those endpoints, so we'll know we're in the right spot. So next, again, if I want to bisect this, don't forget bisecting anything means we're going to cut it. So we're going right through the middle and cutting it into 2 equal pieces. So to do this, we need our compass tool. I'm going to go ahead and change my color. Let's change that to red. So our first thing is we're going to take our compass and put the pointed end of our compass at one end point of our segment. And then we want to change our compass width so it's at least a little bit past the halfway point of our segment. And again, if you're unsure of how far this should go out, again, you could actually go all the way out to the other end of the segment. I tend to keep it a little bit closer in, but again, as long as it's past what looks like the halfway point, or if you think you're kind of close to the halfway point, extend a little bit further. Then I'm going to go ahead and lock my compass. So to bisect a segment, we need to mark off using this compass a distance that's equal distant from the left as it is from the right. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my arc. And again, err on the side of caution. Doesn't matter that I drew that really long arc down at the bottom. I don't need all that space, but couldn't be a bad thing to use. And then again, making sure that I have that lock button on my compass before I move it. Then I'm going to take the pointed end of my compass, again, move it to the other end point, and then I'm going to draw an arc so it actually kind of intersects in both places. And again, if you need to move your compass, grab on the pencil end. It won't draw, but it will let you move your compass over. To draw, don't forget you're grabbing on kind of the top kind of pivot point and you're dragging that around to draw with your compass. And so what our goal is to make sure that we have one intersection point on the top and the bottom. So kind of 2 X marks the spots. And so you'll notice it didn't matter that I had that really long arc on the first try. As long as I have an intersection on the top and the bottom, that's all I need. So now I'm going to go ahead and draw a segment. And just to show you kind of a preview of where I'm going to put it, we are going to draw from this point here, right at the top, to this point down here. Actually, let's try circling it so I can see. Here are the points that I'm going to connect. Alrighty, so using back to my straight edge or segment tool, I'm just going to go from that top point and connect it down. And again, program automatically kind of links our points for us. And so what happens is now is we've got this intersection point right here in the middle. So right here, that is actually now the midpoint of our segment. And so not only does my new blue segment perfectly bisect my original drawn segment, it is also perpendicular to the original segment. So this is one way that I can actually draw a perpendicular line. So again, let's repeat this. So I'm going to show you one more real quick. Okay, so again, we need to start out with some form of a segment. Let me draw it going the other direction. Okay, then compass tool. I'm going to go ahead and change the color to red. Pointed end at one end, doesn't matter which one you start at. Grab your compass so it's a little bit more than halfway. Oops, it's not dragging. Why not? I've got to unlock it. There we go. Now I can drag the width out. Again, go past the halfway point. Lock your compass. Draw an arc that goes pretty far above and below. And then move your compass to the other side and do the same thing. Again, a little hard to do that with the way I have it oriented. So I can always pull things around if I need to. Let's go this way. There we go. So now I can draw top and bottom. Again, trying to make sure that I get the arcs to match up. one above the segment, one below the segment. Then I can draw in my new segment that connects the two. X marks the spot points. And that blue line is a perfect perpendicular bisector. Alrighty, that's our first construction. So if I start with perpendicular, I should probably do a parallel line construction to go along with our parallel line unit. And again, we're studying both of those this unit. So primarily parallel lines, but we're going to see perpendicular lines popping in every so often. So here we go. So when we are creating a parallel line, what you will be asked to do is, given a line and a random point, be able to construct a parallel line parallel to this original line that we drew and the point that is placed somewhere off the line. So I know that's kind of small on this diagram. It won't let me draw a nice little point here. So again, little point, got a couple points in one spot so we can see it a little better. So we're going to try to draw a parallel line. We don't want to just eyeball it. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to construct a pair of angles that we played around with last unit. So first off, to do this, we need to actually create a transversal. So if you remember from last lesson, a transversal is something that intersects two lines. They could be parallel, they might not be parallel, but they're going to intersect those two lines. So my red line is going to be my transversal, and I just need to create the other parallel line to go along with it, and it has to go through that black point. So in order to do this, let's see, I'm going to switch over to blue. What I need to do is actually copy the angle that I have created down at the bottom of the diagram with the red and the black segment, and copy that angle so the vertex is hitting at the black point. So, oops, we're on blue already. Cool. So let's go back to what we did to copy an angle before. So to do that, first thing we did is we put our compass at the vertex of the angle. And then I'm going to draw an arc that goes through that angle. Now, again, as I'm dragging around, you notice my compass keeps changing. So I'm going to go ahead and lock my compass. But I am going to double check something. So when I set my compass, I want to make sure that I'm closer in to the original line than I am to the point. So I want to be below that point when I draw my extra arc. So I believe I'm ready. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my arc. And then I'm going to draw exactly the same arc, again, making sure that I hit both the red line and the black line. Same kind of arc, but recenter my compass at that point that we drew before. And so again, very similar arc that I'm drawing, it's just changing the center. Okay, so now we need to measure what's the size of that angle down at the bottom, and we need to transfer that measurement up to the top. So I'm going to change my color again. Let's go to green. So again, our compass is a measuring tool. We can measure the distance between here where the space of our angle basically that created. So if we're going to measure that along the arc, measure that along the arc to make sure that I have things lined up, I'm going to point it under my compass up at the top of my original measure. And I want to set my arc, my compass width rather, to the width of that distance. There we go. So now I'm going to lock it. Can't hurt to mark, hey, this is where I marked it off before. And then I want to transfer that same measurement up to the top. There we go. So again, same thing we did when we did copy an angle before. And so now I can draw my new line. So going to my segment tool, my new line, I just need to make sure it goes through that blue point and the new intersection point that I made. And now my green line is parallel to my original black line. And I've created a parallel line. All right, let me show you that one more time. Okay. Original line, and then we need a random point. I'm going to do one over on this side this time. Okay, then I need a transversal. So transversal goes somewhere through this point. I could make it go this direction, or I could make it go up to the left. It really doesn't matter. Oops. I'm drawing with my pen tool. I want to use my segment tool to make sure I have a nice straight line. There we go. So now we need to copy our angle. Okay, so blue. And again, doesn't really matter what you use for your colors. It's all about, making sure that you understand your steps. And again, I want to make sure the width of my compass is below that point that we marked, and it is. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my arc that intersects both sides and do it again up above, right centered at that point. Again, you can't see the black point anymore, but it's right under that new blue point that was created. Okay, mark my distance off. Because of the way this is organized, I'm going to put pointed under my compass on the top part of my angle. And then I want to change the width. So I'm marking off an equal distance. So I do need to change that width a little bit. And again, it kind of snaps to that point. And you don't have to change your color, but I'm going to go ahead and do that just so you can see my steps. And so I've marked off my distance on my lower angle. Now I need to mark off the same distance on the top angle. So again, go to the top intersection point, draw your arc so it intersects, the kind of measurement arc. And then I can draw my segment that goes right through those 2 points. There we go. And now my green segment is parallel to my black segment. All right, there's 2 more constructions to check out today. And these are actually variations on that perpendicular bisector. So we're going to check out 2 more ways that we can actually draw a perpendicular line to a given line. So with these, the first thing to do is we need to start with our line. Okay. So here's my line. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a perpendicular that goes through this black line, but it also goes through a random point that's not on top of the line. So I'm going to draw that. Actually, I'm going to move that over for the sake of this first demonstration. But still, notice even though I moved my point over a little bit, it's not right smack in the middle of that segment I drew. And I don't want it to be necessarily. You're going to be given problems potentially that definitely have that point kind of off center. So here's what we need to do. Because it's off center, the first thing that we're going to do is actually mark off an equal distance to the left and to the right that intersects with that line that we have down at the bottom. So first thing I'm going to do is move my compass pointy end at that point we just drew, and I'm going to change the width of my compass so that when I draw it, I can make an arc that hits both on the left-hand section and the right-hand section of my graph. And since the longer part's on the right-hand side, as long as I'm hitting on the left-hand side with kind of the shorter length, then I know I'll hit on both sides. And so here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to draw an arc that hits once on the left and once on the right. Again, I swung a little bit higher up on here, really doesn't matter. Alrighty, so then now all I'm going to do is repeat perpendicular bisector. So the way we just did that is put your compass at one point of your segment. Well, now instead we're going to put it at one of the intersection points on that red arc. And then make sure our compass looks like it goes a little bit halfway. So kind of using that red point now, using that point that we're trying to go through as a reference, I want to go a little bit past that. And there we go, I'm a little past. So I can lock my compass, draw my arc, and I like drawing it once to the top, once to the bottom, and I'm a little bit shy of where that red point is. That's not a bad thing. Then I want to draw exactly the same size arc, so making sure my compass is locked. Pull it over to the other side, and then draw the same kind of arc that intersects that green one. So again, one intersection top, one intersection bottom. And then now I can draw going straight through that point, straight through my lines. Actually, let me retry that. So I want to start right at that red point. It's not letting me start there. Let me start at the bottom point. And so that new line is perpendicular to the black line. Again, let me actually change my color. Let's change them over to blue so you can see it a little better. There we go. Now, you may see some resources that don't have you do those full 2 kind of green arcs there. A lot of resources may just have you do kind of this bottom section here where you have that bottom intersection point, and that's fine. I like to draw the arc so I have the 2 extra intersections, and it's kind of like when you're graphing lines in algebra, a lot of times your teacher probably had you graph 3 points on your line before you drew it. It's kind of the same thing here. If I know that all 3 points are in a nice straight line, then I know that perpendicular line that I tried to draw, the blue one, is perfectly in the right spot. And again, it should be perfectly perpendicular to that original black line we drew. Okay, let's see one more of the same. So again, we're given a line and we're trying to draw a perpendicular that goes through a random point. So you notice I drew it kind of close to the right-hand side just for the sake of example. Okay, so I start with pointy end on the compass. I want to make sure I'm drawing an arc that's going to hit both sides, and it looks like my compass is just barely big enough, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that. And as long as it hits in 2 places, one to the left, one to the right on the original segment, you're good to go. So now do perpendicular bisector, but on these 2 new endpoints. Okay. So pointy end at one endpoint. Make sure you're a little bit halfway. Another way to think of it is you could check it by going just a little bit narrower. Actually, let's go a little bit further past. Let's see how that looks. And as long as it's past the halfway point, we're good to go. So draw my arc. And then do it again from the other side. And whole goal is to get these 2 red arcs that I'm working on right now, to get those to intersect one top, one bottom. So my new perpendicular, I'm going to go ahead and put in purple. Why not? Go straight through. There we go. There we go. Need to make sure the compass or the straight edge tool. So it should go right through all 3 points. So my purple line is perpendicular to my black line. Okay, last method to show you is, what if they want you to do a perpendicular, but this extra point they give you, they put it on the line instead of off the line. So here's what I mean. So let's say here's our starting segment, and they want us to draw a line that's perpendicular to that original line, but it goes through this point. I'm going to draw a little arrow so we can see it a little better. There we go. Again, very, very small point. I realize it's kind of hard to see on this application. Alrighty, so very similar to the last construction. What we're going to do is actually put our compass right smack at that point. Again, as long as you've drawn that point, it should snap right to it on this application. And we want to do kind of the same thing. We want to mark a point to the left and a point to the right that are sitting on that line that we were given. Now, my compass right now is set a little bit too wide, so I'm going to set it so on the shorter side, I know it's going to hit at some point. So I'm going to draw an arc on the right-hand side, and then I'm going to draw an arc on the left-hand side. So I could do this just by pull the compass point over and draw it. Although if you wanted to go wild and crazy, there is nothing wrong with just drawing one big circle all the way around. Nothing wrong with it. Okay, so now we have our new endpoints. So here are our new points that we're going to be worried about. Those are now going to become our endpoints to this segment. And we want to use those and do perpendicular bisector again. So I'm going to do perpendicular bisector in green. And set my compass on one intersection point. I want to make sure my compass goes a little bit past the halfway point. So right now it's right at halfway, so I do need to widen it a little bit. Lock it back up, and then do perpendicular bisector. So I need an intersection on the top and the bottom. Grab my compass over to the other side. Same thing, one on the top, one on the bottom. And again, if you went For the full circle like I drew, again, you'll notice your points might be close, but they don't quite intersect that circle, and that is absolutely fine. It shouldn't necessarily, unless we get really lucky with our widths. Okay, so then my perpendicular line, which I'm going to do in purple, okay, purple perpendicular. Again, connect the points, top to bottom. Oops. Make sure I have my tool actually turned on. Connect your intersection points with the two arcs and the point in the middle. And now my purple line is perpendicular to my original line. Okay, let me show you one more of those. Okay, so we start out, we're given a random line. Again, I'm going to go ahead and do this one at a slant just to see another way that this could happen. A point randomly on the line. And again, it's a little hard to see now, but once we start drawing with the compass tool, again, every time we start doing an arc, it actually puts a bigger point right at kind of the pointed end of our compass. So we'll be able to see that really well. So let's see, I don't remember the color coding I did before. Let's try with red. Alrighty. So first off, I need to draw equal measures going left and right to the point. Now, I'm not going to have any problems on the right-hand side, so I want to check the left-hand side first, actually. So grab the pencil end over, make sure I'm going to be inside, kind of the end of the line. So don't forget, if you need to adjust that, unlock your compass, move your pencil end, and then lock them back up. Okay. At minimum, you want to have one arc to the left and one arc to the right. Or you could draw this one big circle like I did before. Either one's fine. Next, use these two new endpoints. So that intersection point and that intersection point. We want to use those to do perpendicular bisector. So here we go. Pointed end at one of the new intersection points. I do need to widen my compass. Make sure it's a little bit wider. Lock it up and draw my arcs. And again, err on the side of, if you're not sure that your arc is long enough, make it even longer. Okay, just put it over on the other side. And same thing. Draw it so it intersects top and bottom. So then my new perpendicular segment, top to bottom, right through the point that they gave us, which was that red point. And again, now our purple line is perpendicular to our black line. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, we're going to have you do a practice where you show us that you can construct one of each item. Now, we understand that this is tricky stuff. So, try it out. If you get stuck, please, please, please do let us know. Again, you can either do your constructions with the same online tool and take a screenshot of each one, or if you have a compass in hand, you can always make your constructions with that compass. And I do have a printable version of practice problems. So if you want to have a printed version of these segments to start with, then you can absolutely use that. Let us know if you have any questions.